awesome. He's now posting God messages. You know those like pictures with like verses or encouragements? He's posting like tons of them on his wall. Whatever happened, all I know is one thing. I obeyed God's command. I followed the Holy Spirit. I planted the seed and I walked away. All the watering was done by God. And I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful because that was probably such a gnarly thing to show me in like week 5 or week 6. And that's prophecy. That's prophetic message from God. And it could not be any more perfect than perfect because it's from God. And truth, it always comes from God. So that's kind of a very brief 2/3 things that happened during the lecture weeks, and I'm sure I could have one-on-ones with you and share like hours on hours, but you gotta get going. So, Philippines. As you saw up there, there was a camp. This was really great because it's the Kingdom Builders Camp 4. Meaning they had 3 other ones before that. What was really cool is that 4 years ago, our base sent a team there. And then the year after, same time, sent another team. And every year, we've been sent there. Because God has called us to build this relationship with a church there, with the name Pastor Pat at Grace Covenant Fellowship. And they they host a youth camp on the second week after we arrive. So in the first week, we do all the preparation, the debriefing of what's going to happen. And this camp was amazing. And we did, I guess you can't say really door to door because it was a really village setting, third world poverty, like they're living on concrete, maybe gravel. Their walls are made up of bamboo, sliced up, nailed together, and the roofs are made of dried up banana leaves. Sorry, coconut leaves, which were the thin ones. And it was an eye-opener. It wasn't sad, but it was just like, wow, Casey, you're so blessed, you're so fortunate. Like, these people have a bigger smile on their face than you do, and they live in lesser conditions. Their money conversion is 40 pesos is our $1. You can buy a chicken for like 120 pesos. And that's their food that will last them like 2 or 3 days. And the chicken's tiny because they're not organically injected with hormones and stuff like that. They have it natural. They have them running around, actually. I'm sure Rwanda would probably attest to the random animals running around. During that time, what was great was we got to live the village life. They put us in the old church. So in the video, you would have saw like the big metal scaffolding thingy-majiggy, and it was that big hall is the new church that we actually helped. There were slabs of concrete that needed to be finished up by hand, and that was probably a very hard task. And we did it. We slugged it out for 3 days, and we had to like mix rocks and soil and whatever. But we did it. And then they pulled a whole tarp over, and that was their roof. And so that's their new church. But the place we were staying in was where the picture you saw with the big banner flag, and it was like 50 Filipinos in there. We stayed in there. It was concrete floor. Yeah, that's not fun. If you ever slept on concrete, I'll tell you right now, it ain't the best thing ever. And so, living that type of life, it was really a life lesson to say, look, this is how fortunate you get to go home and sleep on a nice bed. But one thing that really stood out was the youth. These kids, off the streets, you know, like a lot of different backgrounds. Some grew up in the Catholic Christian faith and some nothing. And I'll tell you, when they came. And one kid who was actually on the streets, and we were doing street evangelism, and one of our friends, they were talking to him, and the night before the camp started, they were like, hey, you should come to this camp. It's a youth camp. Not a Christian, not a believer, he was an atheist. And it's like, okay. And he was kind of like free roaming child. Like whatever he wanted to do, his mom kind of just let him. But his mom was sort of kind of like hoping he would get out of his little skateboarding life and going around the city late at night and going out partying and drinking and whatever. And the next day, he shows up at the camp. Atheist guy, doesn't know a thing about God. And what the best part was the following night, the opening night, he goes, I want Jesus in my life. Whatever happened during the day, whatever people talked to him, whatever, he saw something in other people. There were about 60 kids, 50 kids. He saw something in these kids that he didn't have, that he wanted. So basically, everybody witnessed to him without actually speaking to him for saying like a sermon type, but it was just, he wanted it. And then 2 days later, he saw the baptisms, he got baptized. Wow. And that was just like, to me, I was like, whoa. Back in Canada, back in Vancouver, you would rarely see that. If you did, it'd be like an awesome miracle to us. But there, it was just happening. 30 kids got baptized that day. And the best part after that was right when everyone was getting splashed.
As you said kids, what age?
They were as young as probably 10 to 12 to as old as like 17 or 18, and then we had like youth leaders that were a little bit older than that. Yeah. But right at the end of baptism, what was so crazy was the kids was like, look, and there was like 20 doves just flying right over.
Oh,
And that day was supposed to pour rain and thunder showers, but the skies cleared up when we got to that place. So that was something that really stuck out. Another great thing was the Katanawanis Island trip. We actually took a ferry. Another amazing experience. Who has ridden on a ferry? Everyone? I was you. Gone on a ferry? Okay. Those kids, 99% of them that went to the island, never been on a ferry. That mission trip costed each person, I believe it was like 2,000 pesos. Wow. It was like $50. It's not a lot. And we looked at ourselves. So I was like, man, 2,000. What could I do with $50 back home? Maybe have a nice meal. Maybe have a ride to like Hope and back in my car. Then that night I just like, okay, 3 people were short money. And I prayed and I said, you know what? Can I sacrifice that little bit of money that to them is a lot? You're right. It is a lot of money to them. Their wages are like 40 pesos an hour, if you're lucky. And so everyone that wanted to go got to go. They got to go on a ferry. They got to go on the island. They got to experience firsthand what open air ministry was and do that. And we were there just to facilitate. We were the supporters. We were the ones that were sharing the moments with them, but really we let them take charge. But we just went there to be the supporter. And Philippines was a huge eye-opener. But for me, because I was kind of in my element, everyone thought I was Filipino when I got there. I don't know, it might be the tan. It was that nasty mustache. Sorry to my grandpa who's not here. He asked me to shave it, and we all kind of made a pact not to shave it till after the school ended. So it's gone now. Yeah, it was really gross. Thanks, Jake. But I still felt at home because all the Filipinos are like kind of like crazy, like Singaporeans, and like really like always high strung. They wake up at 5 a.m. and sleep at like 12 a.m. every day. And the people that live at the church wake up every morning and sweep the church floor, and they just do everything. And oh, it was awesome. But it was when we got to Fiji that God started just. Like this morning I said, I got rocked by God. Like this is where a lot of stuff was revealed to me and how my life just completely was turned right side up, basically. We started in Latoka, which was the far west side of Fiji. Suva, the capital, on the far right side. And then Nathula Island was the final place we went to for the ministry. We did prison ministry, as you saw, door-to-door ministries, hospital, the youth group, church ministries, and all those were, man, they were amazing. But one stood out the most, because in Fiji, we were prepared with more of the knowledge, but not of the actual physical preparedness of what was going to happen. Spiritual warfare. I don't know if you ever experienced it. I've never experienced it in a sense that I've never really been exposed to it, so I didn't really know what it was, and I probably felt it here before, but when we got there, it was heavy. our team was probably filled with the most senior people, like